4 years since I tested the Mazda MX-30. That was their first electric car. And you know what? I liked it far more than I thought I was going to. It was certainly a compliance car. Mazda were effectively forced to make an electric car, and that's what they produced. But you know what? They did it with some panache. The interior was lovely. There was bits of cork in it. It was plush. It was nice to drive, actually. But it was a weird car. It charged extremely slowly. The range was very low. It had the suicide doors, which means it's not that practical. So the MX-30 was a strange car. A little bit half-hearted in their approach, but they still did it with some panache. The problem is, it wasn't competitive back then, and it certainly isn't now. Since the MX-30 came out, the Chinese have been coming along, eating everyone's lunch by making well-specced, well-priced EVs. So, if you can't beat them, join them. This is the Mazda6e. It's been developed in conjunction with Changan, a Chinese company. So, is this a Chinese car? Yes, but hopefully it has enough nice little Mazda touches that make it a proper Mazda. Because for me, when I think about the Mazda MX-30, when I think of my old 323F, which I used to have, I get such a lovely vibe. Just, there's something kind of classy about Mazda. So hopefully that has some of that. So let's say konnichiwa to the Mazda6e. First of all, please press the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen and press the bell icon to be notified of other videos. Right, first of all, let's have a little look around the car, and we're going to learn a little bit of Mazda PR speak as we go. There's obviously no grille because it's electric. There doesn't need to be one. What there is here is sort of a dynamic light display you get, and apparently when you plug in, you can see the charging status there. My only concern with that is if you've got a really dark sort of neighborhood and you're plugged in, is it going to just light up everything with these lights as it's charging? You know, is it going to bother your neighbors? I don't know. And sadly, I don't have this car long enough to test that out. All this kind of plastic grille in here gives me a little bit of a Mercedes vibe. And frankly, I don't love the way Mercedes grilles look. But I think overall it looks pretty good at the front. And yes, it does have this kind of feline, pouncy look. We're obviously used to a lot of chubby SUVs at the moment, so this is refreshing anyway to see a saloon. But I think this one does look particularly good. Lovely swooping lines there. And at the back, you've got this really nice indented bit here where it sticks out here and then curves in. I think it looks lovely. And this colour red. I mean, they had a few different options there and I wanted to go for the red because I think that's probably the colour I would go for if I was going to get this car. Gone is the old Mazda logo. Now we have spaced out Mazda lettering here. I'm a little bit of a sucker actually for any spaced out lettering. I think it just looks cool, I think. What you've also got here, and I'm not sure exactly how I can make it happen, but there's a spoiler there.
Oh, rear spoiler. Okay, cool.
If you go over, I think it was 56 miles an hour, the spoiler pops up. It's quite neat. So that pops up and it obviously gives you better stability and it looks cool. Not that you actually see it when you're driving, but other people look at it and they go, oh, that looks cool. So yeah, spoiler in there, and I think it looks pretty decent at the back. And the lights at the back here with the two circular ones and then the line going across, that harks back to some of their previous cars. So it's a bit of classic heritage Mazda design there. But yeah, I think it looks pretty decent. What do you think? Okay, let's talk dimensions, and I'm going to refer to my book because I can never remember all these things. 1,890 millimeters width, and that's without the mirrors. It's 2,156 with the mirrors. You've got a height of 1,491. It's a long car. It's 4,921 millimeters length with a wheelbase of 2,895. In terms of other cars of the same sort of size, you've got the Volkswagen ID.7, which is only about 40 millimeters longer than this. It's a pretty big car, isn't it? It's a pretty big car, so it's going to have a big boot, surely. What do we think? Okay, well, you know what? That's pretty good. When I looked at the dimensions on the specs before I came and did this test drive, I thought, well, that sounds a little bit underwhelming. But actually, when you look at it, it's very good. And I think part of this probably comes down to the way manufacturers do their dimensions and the specs. And I think they're selling themselves short a little bit, Mazda here. It's 336 litres, the boot. But that is just from here up to the cover, up to the parcel shelf. it's 466 litres up to the ceiling, and when you include the underfloor bit, under there, and then you've got 1,074. Shut up! The bloody car's talking to me for no reason at all. 1,074 litres if you put the back seats down. So under this little rubber mat here, you have a little bit of space here, which I'm assuming I can take out. At the moment it's tied down. Doesn't feel like there's going to be very much under there, to be honest, but that's a pretty decent shape, I think. Being a saloon, one of its main competitors is going to be the Model 3, isn't it? And the Model 3 isn't a hatch, so I would argue that this is a far more usable boot than that. And the Model 3 does have a bigger boot than this. Ordinarily I would have luggage to put in and test, but I don't have it for long enough to be able to do that, sadly. But if I ever get one for a little week-long test drive, then I'll do that. What I do have is my tape measure. So let's give you a little bit of a measurement there. So you've got 105, let's say 105 centimetres of depth, 103 centimetres width, and then up to the parcel shelf, what do we have? We've got about 44 up to the parcel shelf. With the seats down and to my driving position, you've got about 187 centimetres there. Having put the seats down, I'm not actually sure how to lock them in place. So that's just staying down. A bit weird. And if you want to tow, it'll do 1,500 kilograms. Pretty decent sized front, look. 72 litres. Obviously we can't talk about an electric car without talking about charging. And this is particularly weird, this one. You've got 11 kilowatts AC charging, that's all good. But for DC charging, you've got a hell of a difference depending on which model you go for. If you go for the standard range, then you've got an LFP battery, that's the battery chemistry. I know people worry about batteries. You can put a nail through an LFP battery and nothing will happen. It's unbelievably safe. It's also, in this case anyway, it also charges much faster. There's 165 kilowatts charging. So it'll do 22 minutes from 10 to 80%. Now the standard range is 300 miles it will do. If you go for the larger battery, you get longer range, of course, you get 345 miles of range. But the 80 kilowatt hour battery is an NCM chemistry, which is like most batteries used to be. But you only get 90 kilowatts charging speed. Just 90, which means that it takes 45 minutes to get from 10 to 80%. Normally that's not the case. Normally the bigger the battery, the faster it will charge. But not in this case. No, 45 minutes to 80%. It's weird. Personally, I would go for the standard range version. It'll be cheaper and it charges much, much faster. You may want to pay extra and get that 45 miles of extra range. Because you may think, well, maybe you charge at home all the time. Maybe you don't need to charge very much on the go, and so you don't need the extra charge speed. Which is fair enough. But yeah, personally, I think the standard range one is the one to go for. What do you think? Right, so the cabin, as is so often the case with modern cars these days, the cabin is an infotainment screen. And can't see any buttons. Can't see any buttons. You've got buttons obviously on the steering wheel. You've got window controls. Hazards up here, SOS, yeah, no other buttons. So everything is on the screen. Now personally, I don't like that very much, but loads of people buy Teslas. Loads of people tell me that Teslas are the best cars ever and they would never get anything else and they're happy with everything being on the screen. So, hey, maybe it's okay, but it does mean that when you're driving along, you have no tactile feedback when you want to change the temperature. And of course, you can use its assistant if you want to, which I'm not going to start doing because it won't shut up. But you can say, hi,
hello.
Oh, God. I just said hi, I didn't say hi, Mazda. Hi, Mazda. Can you...
I'm here.
Okay. Can you turn off the air conditioning?
This function does not support voice commands at the moment.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, so everything's on the screen. It's a pretty good layout. I mean, they've copied Tesla, really, in the way it works, and Tesla is pretty much the best, isn't it? If you're going to do a big touch screen, you want to do it like Tesla. So you've got lots on here, which I'll go through in a minute. But firstly, you've got a couple of cup holders here. You've got this bit here. How does that lift? I feel like I'm going to break it. Does that lift up? Surely that lifts, no? Ah, there. Easy when you know how. There we go. You've got quite decent storage down there. Down here you've got a USB-C and you've got a USB-A. You do have wireless charging and you do have wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. The steering wheel is one of those funny shaped ones where it's a bit flat at the bottom, whatever you call that, squircle, is it? The steering wheel feels lovely, it's a nice solid feel to it. The buttons here, they are proper, well, sort of proper buttons, and they work okay. They're not touch sensitive, but they do look it. But yeah, so the buttons here are okay. And it's a nice, I think it's a pretty nice cabin. I wouldn't say it's, well, it's certainly not luxury. It's on the top end of premium. Some interesting looking plastics going on here. And a lot of this is all kind of rubbery, you know, stitch plastic stuff, which looks all right, I think.
That's your HUD just in there, which I can't really show off now.
It's comfortable.
The seat has all the normal controls here, lumbar support, all the rest of it.
And you know, you've got this open bit down here, so you've got loads of storage space. No vanity mirror light. My wife would be swearing about that probably.
So it's all right in here, you know, but not as nice as the MX-30 was. That was a whole other level of class, I think, especially with the cork. That's really nice.
A lovely screen in front of you, by the way.
If you're using the inbuilt navigation, then it appears there. I don't think it did when I was using Google Maps earlier, actually.
That's all good. But let's go through the infotainment and I'll show you that, if I can work out how to do it. If you look here, you can see you've got the car and you can do various stuff like opening the boot, of course. If you pull that down, you've got kind of familiar icons here. File management. God knows what you can do in there, but you've got videos and photos and stuff like that. You obviously got radio, energy flow, that gives you how much power you're using, and energy curve you can go to, and you've got all that sort of graph stuff, which I love all of that. And that is something that Teslas are really good at as well, of course. Settings, loads of settings here. That's all good. Scenario mode. I like all this sort of stuff. I don't know, kind of ridiculous. Rest mode will play soothing music. It will adjust your seat and provide an alarm wake-up service if you actually fall asleep. And then you've got car wash mode, camping mode, lots of stuff on here. Now, I don't particularly like the look of this infotainment system. I just think it looks a little bit, I don't know, it looks a bit kind of cheap, I suppose. But you know, it's okay. Loads of settings here for all of your high beams and stuff like that. But I really have a problem with all this stuff. I want controls for all this important stuff. I don't want to be doing it on the screen. It drives me mad. Anyway, let's just go to maps, if I can find it. Where is it? Navigation. Let's do the little test where we go somewhere. And I always do Edinburgh, but I want to see if it maps out where we have to charge, because that's the most important thing for an EV, really. Destination unreachable. Right, okay. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So it's telling me that I'll get to 20% there and I'll run out there. Add charges. Calculating routes. Now, it should tell me where to charge, really. Okay, and it does. Yeah. All right, that's fine. So it's telling me to charge a BP Pulse. Interestingly, it's telling me to charge it Tesla. It'll be interesting to see if that's a Tesla that's open to all EVs. I hope it is. But yeah, so it does look like it does that kind of thing. 2 charge stops, 1 hour, 10 minutes it'll take to charge to get up to Edinburgh. So that's good. At least it does that. And actually, I don't mind, you know, that mapping interface is okay. It's all right. Another little bit of Mazda Japanese fun. Offering 3 drive modes, normal, sport and individual. The Mazda6e allows the driver to tailor their driving experience to their individual style, embodying the Jinba Itai driving philosophy of enabling seamless connection between car and driver. The Mazda6e is carefully crafted to deliver precise handling, intuitive response, and a natural sense of control. There we go, that's what you get with changing the driving modes, and you can change all that on here. The sound system is Sony, and it's pretty good, although to be honest, I haven't had a good chance to try it properly. You can drag icons down to here as well if you want to, so that's all good. So it's not too bad. It doesn't feel like Mazda to me. That's the only problem. I would like it to be a little bit more slick looking. Okay, so sitting in the back, first of all, I would say that there's a pretty decent amount of headroom, which you probably can't see from here, but it's over a fist, which is the car reviewer's general metric, isn't it, of these things? Over a fist for me, anyway. And I'm 5 foot, between 5'10" and 5'11", about 180 centimeters. Now, I raised my seat up a little bit, so the driving position I've put quite high, so I can put my feet underneath, but I can't on the passenger side. There's a pretty decent amount of legroom here. I've got, yeah, no, it's okay, but you know, quite often you find with EV SUVs, especially, you've got far more room underneath the seat. One USB-C at the back here, and you do have some temperature controls as well, and a weird cubby hole here, which just looks like stuff is going to get lost in there. So you can move the seat back and forward. Just the passenger seat, obviously, not the driver's seat. But yeah, I would like a bit more room under there. But the seats are pretty comfortable. Let's do the middle seat test, which is the thing that always drives my wife nuts. The middle seat, like so many cars these days, is kind of pointless. I mean, you could put child seats here, perhaps, although there's no Isofix in the middle. But anyway, you could put a small child in the middle seat, but it is higher, you know. Long gone are the days of 3 proper seats in the back, sadly. But, you know, overall, you know, it's a pretty good cabin. It's a very dull day today, sadly, but you do have a panoramic roof that goes very far back, so I imagine that's going to be quite nice for passengers in the back here. There's also a hole in the seats in front, so you can look straight through. There is another interior that I saw some of the other journalists taking today, and that was a brown interior, and I quite like brown interiors. I think that looks a little bit, I mean, it's old-fashioned, but I think it looks quite classy. This is black, so it looks a little more standard. I love Mazda because they can make even the most mundane feature sound impressive, just because of the use of Japanese. This is from their press release. From the moment the driver approaches, the Mazda6e offers a warm welcome, inspired by omotenashi, the Japanese spirit of hospitality and thoughtful anticipation. I don't want to sound dismissive, because I love Japanese culture and everything about Japan sounds great, doesn't it? It's probably just a way of saying keyless entry, isn't it? So let's see if we get some omotenashi here. There we go, look at that, omotenashi. Mazda seem to have a Japanese word for everything, don't they? I wonder if there's a word for killing off the MX-30 because of its slow charging, poor range, and dubious practicality. Tell me in the comments. Let's go for a drive. The turning circle is pretty massive, although they only give a turning radius in the specs, weirdly. I think this is the first time I've driven a left-hand drive car in England, and it feels weird. I'm very much used to driving right-hand drive in Europe, but not the opposite way around. So it feels a bit strange. I'm getting weird blind spots and things I'm not used to. Now, I've got a real soft spot for Mazda. Just after I passed my test, one of my first cars was a Mazda 323F, and I loved that car. It felt very luxurious at the time, although I watched, just before doing this, I watched a video on YouTube, just to remind myself what it was like. And it wasn't quite as luxurious as I seem to remember. But anyway, for me back then, as a young driver, I thought it was the best thing ever. So I've always had a really good feeling about Mazdas, and even when I drove the Mazda MX-30, which was a compliance car, let's be honest, it still had a really good feeling about it. It's about 7 seconds to 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, but there are 2 different versions available, and weirdly, the one with the bigger battery is slightly slower by 0.2 seconds, but that's the one that I've got here. This is the long-range version, but the weight of the battery is exactly the same, so I'm assuming that the cars weigh exactly the same as well. It's not an SUV, so it's not a lumbering thing that flies around corners and starts tipping over. You've got an almost 50-50 weight distribution on the car. You've got the battery as a skateboard design, like all EVs are these days, really. That gives a really low center of gravity, and of course, this being a saloon, it handles pretty well, and it's rear-wheel drive. And I always like rear-wheel drive. It feels nice to drive. It's comfortable. It's pretty smooth, I think. So although this is a Chinese car underneath, Mazda have tuned this one specifically for European tastes. That means the suspension's a bit different. The driving dynamics are slightly different. Now, I've not driven the Chinese equivalent, so I'm not sure exactly what they've done. This is a pretty bumpy road. I mean, I drove here in a BMW i3. Not a good comparison, is it? And that, you really feel the bumps. This, it hides it quite nicely, but not too much. It hides it just enough. It's a pretty soft suspension, but not so much that you don't feel the road. As always, it has all of the usual kind of speed limit detection stuff, and I'm going slightly over 40 at the moment, only slightly. It's one of my bugbears that so many cars have really loud speed limit warnings that I really don't like, and I feel like I have to turn them off the moment I get in the car. But this actually is quite quiet. It's a pretty subtle little beep. So if I do slightly over 40, as I am at the moment, for a start, it's taken its sweet time before it tells me that I'm going over. But when it does, it's just quite a soft little beep. So that's good. If you do want to turn it off, you can, but you do have to go through all these different menus down here. And because there isn't very much regenerative braking in here, I do feel like I'm going quite fast, quite easily, because I'm going downhill at the moment. So I would like to be able to find regen braking, but I don't want to do it really while I'm driving along. I don't want to be clicking around on all this. And that's why I like physical controls, and it drives me mad that so many cars don't have them these days. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe it's on the vehicle settings, maybe, I don't know, but I'm not going to be looking at that. Something I like in Hyundai and Kia cars is being able to change the regenerative braking on some paddles here. And that is also what you get on many cars these days, actually, Renaults, for instance, as well. So I like being able to change regenerative braking with paddles on the steering wheel, and you can't do that. It's not possible. And that's a shame, because I think that would make it an even better driver's car, I think, being able to do that. So I find it interesting that this is Mazda's only electric car, because remember, the MX-30 is no longer sold. They've quietly put it to sleep. So this is Mazda's only electric offering at the moment. And it's a weird one, because most families seem to buy SUVs these days. You may disagree with that, but they seem to. So in a way, I think it's quite nice that this is a saloon. The seats are really comfortable. You've obviously got lumbar support. I've said this in another review. I've probably said this a few times actually, but I always think about how I would feel driving in a car a long distance down to Italy, like we often do. And this is one of those cars that I would just feel very comfortable in. It's a pretty relaxing drive, really, I think. Now, I would consider the Volkswagen ID.7 its most direct competitor. It's certainly the most similar in terms of size. And we have just driven the ID.7 back from Italy. And that was a lovely, comfortable, long-range cruiser. And this feels quite similar in terms of comfort, I think. When we do press drives like this, they always find a lovely place in the middle of the country to do it. And there are never any fast roads anywhere close. So I would have liked to have taken this onto a motorway or at least a fast road just to test things like cruise control and stuff like that, but I can't, unfortunately. So, but I'm assuming it'll be good. But yeah, sadly, I don't know. If I test it at some point for a long period of time, then hopefully I can try it out. So you do have voice controls, of course. So if I try this, if I click it once.
Right here.
Turn on the heated seats.
It's been turned on.
Thank you. We don't know how much this is going to cost in the UK yet. But if it is around the 40,000 mark, that does actually make it pretty competitive when you compare it to the Volkswagen ID.7, which I'm going to flash the price on screen because I don't remember what it is right now, but I think it's about 55,000. So this does feel like a big car, but that could just be because I am driving on the wrong side. And that feels a little bit weird. Because actually, in terms of width, it's not really that big. In the grand scheme of things, there are bigger cars around at the moment. Now, these small country roads in England, they always make me nervous. And when you're driving a pretty big car like this, it makes me especially nervous, especially as it's a press car, it's not even my own car. Because a lot of these roads are barely big enough for one car, let alone two. Oh, you're joking. It's all good fun. It's all good fun driving these country roads. So to sum up the driving experience, it's comfortable, it's decent, but it's unremarkable. In fact, that could sum up the whole car, really. It just doesn't give me Mazda vibes. Okay, I'm back to Mazda, and we got 246.3 watt-hours per mile efficiency. That equates to about 4.06 miles per kilowatt hour. Not too bad, really. So Mazda's EV press releases, and I remember this from the MX-30, they're always something special. They sound like someone held at hostage, which I suppose is appropriate since Japanese automakers have been dragged kicking and screaming into the electric age. So this is what they say. In the UK, we are facing some unique and complex challenges in the balance between EV legislation and consumer demand. Consumer demand perhaps wasn't very high because the MX-30 wasn't really that good. Just a thought. But at Mazda, we will introduce new models and ensure our product range fits the pace of actual consumer demand in the UK with technologies that are amongst the best in the market. Now, EV sales for Volkswagen, Kia, Hyundai and others are going up quite significantly. In fact, 20% of all those I've just mentioned are full EVs. So things are looking pretty good, Mazda. What we really want is an electric MX-5. Make that happen. So my concluding thoughts on the Mazda6e. First of all, personally, I would get the lower range one because for me, faster charging is probably better than a longer range, but you may be different. We don't know how much it's going to cost. In Europe, where it's already released, it's around the £40,000 mark. So my guess it's going to be hovering around there. But when you consider that the competition like the Tesla Model 3 and the MG IM5, they start at around 39,000, 38,000, 39,000. So if they want this to be competitive, and I hope they are going to make it competitive, then it needs to be around that mark. Now, obviously, it's a big car, it's comfortable. It seems to do a lot of stuff that you would want it to do. The infotainment is a little bit, I don't want to say tacky, but it's not quite as refined as I would like. I don't think it really matches the rest. I would just like to see more space under the seats, and I would certainly like to see faster charging in the long range one, because that is pretty weird, I think. Anyway, it will be ages before this comes out in the UK, so the specs may change, but I would love to know what you think. Do let me know in the comments, and thank you very much for watching this video. Please press the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of other videos, and I'll be back very soon. Bye for now.